Crystal, I know you've always dreamt about slow travel.
Well, if it's something's happening slowly, I'm dreaming because I'm asleep.
Yeah, but you've talked about, come on, you've wanted to
Yeah.
be on the road for like 3 months, 4 months. I know there's days at work where you just want to hit the road for 6 months.
Oh, I would love that. And it's the opposite of the spreadsheet of activities travel that I've also done, where a friend had a whole spreadsheet prepared of activities to do. So the opposite is great.
You're like, dump the spreadsheet.
Let's just do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
let's do
just
it.
see
Well,
where the day takes us.
on today's show, Kate and Kimberly hit the road for months. We'll hear where they went, why they went, what was great, what was not so great, and more.
And today we are switching things up. No gear of the day. Are you sad, Joe?
I'm not sad because I couldn't come up with one.
Oh, well, you were going to probably talk about another board game anyway.
Probably,
But
yes.
we are going to share a list of slow travel tips that one publication recently said, and we're going to ask our guests about a few of them. So this publication said that, hey, these are this is the exclusive list, and I'm using air quotes here. So we're going to ask the two professionals, hey, is this true or false? Or this right or wrong? Like, are they steering us in the wrong direction or not? But if you miss us talking about the gear, you can still go to our old gears and do me a favor and count how many times Joe recommended a board game or a game of some sort.
Count one time. Once.
No, it's definitely more than one game on there. And it's only a Joe suggestion.
What?
But
There's
please
one.
check. Would you like to bet? Any wagers? Any wagers?
All
You
right.
can never recommend too many board games.
I know,
We
right?
know. We know.
Yeah,
we
Kate's got my
all.
back.
We've got them all. But you can check them out at stackingadventures.com/GOTD, and you'll find great gear and games, if it's Joe's, that we both love taking on our trips. So, all right, now I can say it again. Let's get this show on the road.
Ready for adventure? From vacation to staycation, and from the mountains to the beach. This is the Stacking Adventures podcast.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Stacking Adventures podcast, where we head around the world with our adventure community and we share stories from the road. And she is Crystal.
And I'm Joe. It just rolls off the tongue when I say I'm Joe.
Every single time.
He's
and
Joe.
Today, from Seattle, we have a couple that I met when I was in Seattle, giving a talk at Retire Meet the night before. We had a cool meetup at a bar called Tapster in Bellevue, and I got to meet Kate and Kimberly. How are you two?
We're good. Thank you.
Doing great. Excited to chat about our travels.
Well, Kate, when you and I were talking, you know that I kind of, I got really excited when you said Kimberly and I we did this slow travel for months. And I think right then I was like, you got to come on the show.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we weren't expecting you to say that, but we were talking, I think you asked us all to introduce ourselves and talk a little bit about our own like financial journey. And I was just talking about how I've always been probably leaned a little more financially anxious and been really on top of finances. And Kimberly and I, when we met and were dating and got married, she was always on board. And then I read Die with Zero. And
oh, yeah.
I just really liked a lot of his arguments were very like logical and stuck with me. The idea of like compounding memories and experiences. And so we've loved travel anyway, even before that. But once I read that book, I was just convinced like, we have to do this now. Why would we wait? Yeah.
Have you ever read the book, Crystal?
No, I've
Die with Zero?
I just wrote it down.
Yeah. A guy named Bill Perkins, who is a venture capitalist, was a trader in Houston, has made a ton of money. Actually, when I interviewed Bill for Stacking Benjamins, he was on a boat off the coast of Greece. So here he is sitting outside with these Greek islands going behind him. And I was like, what a flex. It was absolutely horrible. But the concept is exactly what Kate talked about, which is, let's don't put off these things. Don't put off living.
So speaking of things and living, Kate, What does slow travel mean? Like in your words, what would you say it means?
For me, I think it means it doesn't even necessarily have to be a certain amount of time. It just means
Hmm.
not racing. For us, it was 7 months, so it was a nice amount of time also. But we stayed in a lot of cities for like 2 weeks,
Okay.
which most people they'll cram a whole country into 2 weeks, and we just decided we're just going to stay in this one place for 2 weeks, and we can eat breakfast at the same place more than once, and we can mosey the neighborhoods and it just takes like a lot of pressure off to make the most of every single day.
The idea of 7 months, like just
Wow.
going for that amount of time. Kimberly, did you guys initially think you were going to go for 7 months, or did this stretch out? Was it like 2 weeks and no, let's stay a little longer?
No, it was, we both really wanted to extensively travel, and that meant very different things for us. Kate was like, I want to travel for like 12 months. And I was like, whoa, that is way too much. Let's do like 2 months, because I had never really traveled as much as Kate did before we met. Once we started planning it, I think we got 5 months in, and I was like, let's add like another 2, 3 months. Like I can do this for so long.
Wow.
Like there's so many more countries I want to
Wow.
go to. Let's just like continue this and like add more countries the more that we planned it.
So then,
So
speaking of planning, how do you plan something like this? We could even get into finances and like, where the heck did you even pick to go? Was it pinata, kind of throw a dart at a, oh, that was pin the tail on the donkey kind of
Yes.
There you
deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Pin the tail on the country. In this case,
Yeah.
and also to add to Crystal's question, I want to know how far ahead of you
Yeah.
actually getting on a plane did you start planning this?
So we talked about it on our honeymoon, and I think we left probably 10 months later, right?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because our 1 year anniversary we celebrated while we were traveling. So
Oh,
it was under a year, and honestly, once you go, it's easier to stay because there is a lot of planning on the front end. Once you're
right.
there, you've already taken care of it. So whether you go for seven
Sure.
months or 11 months, it's all kind of the same at that point. Which is why when Kimberly said 2 months, I was like, I don't want to do all that work just for 2 months. It's like because it is a bit of work up front. And so our big things were we wanted to get our apartment. We kind of sublet it. We talked to like the
Okay.
property manager, and we've been living here a while, and we're good tenants. And we just said we want to come back to this unit. We just were wondering if people could stay here and kind of rent the space. And we wanted to leave our furniture so we didn't have to pay for storage or anything. And so we used a website called Furnished Finder, which a lot of like
Oh,
traveling nurses and social workers use. And so it's pretty flexible. We posted pictures and description of the setup, and Kimberly kind of manned all the inquiries and
I was
chatted
say
with
you probably
people.
got somebody being in Seattle. You probably got somebody fairly quickly, I would think.
Yeah. So I think one
oh.
of the positive things about where we live, we're pretty close to multiple hospitals and like
Mm.
the the University of Washington's hospital system. So our place was pretty popular because we were maybe a mile out from like three separate hospitals. So a lot of
Oh.
people who were dental students or just like traveling nurses or social workers would reach out asking
And
if they
so,
could stay at our place.
yeah, we were
Hmm.
able to get of the 7 months we traveled, all but 12 days were covered, which was
Wow.
amazing. Our building manager didn't want us to profit off it. He was fine with it as long as people were just paying the rent and the utilities and whatnot. And we didn't really even feel the need to not, like profit. We just didn't want to be paying
Yeah.
Sure.
Seattle's high cost of living. We didn't want to be paying rent here and we're not living, and then also paying to stay somewhere in Italy
Hotels.
or
Yeah.
wherever we were.
Well,
Um,
let's ask that. Where did you end up going, and how did you decide on the itinerary? Was it
yeah. So we spent about half of the time in Europe and then the other half in Latin America. So both Central and
Mm.
South America. Um, a lot, part of the place. So my family's from Guatemala. So we definitely wanted to spend an extended amount of time in Guatemala so I could introduce my extended family to Kate.
And we wanted to be there around like Christmas and New Year's. And then we wanted to hit the Christmas markets, the Christkindl markets in Germany and Austria. So we had to time that. And then
we wanted to spend Carnival in Brazil. So we did that.
So we kind of planned then around those three things, like being in those places at those times. I don't know. Italy, we just both thought would be fun. And then we only spent 4 days in Lisbon on our honeymoon and we loved it. So we wanted to go back and just said, let's do a month in Portugal. And then what else? We added Argentina and Montevideo for just a week because it was kind of right there in between Buenos Aires and Rio. So yeah, but we didn't have the full thing planned out before we left. We definitely had all of the first 3 months, the European part of the trip planned, and Guatemala. But then we were kind of go with the flow. We were for a minute going to go to Ecuador, and then they had like a coup or something, and we decided let's not do that. So then that's how we ended up in Argentina. So, and then we went to Puerto Rico too, because Kimberly's siblings, when they had their spring break, they're younger. When they had their spring break in college, they wanted to meet up with us somewhere, and so we met with them in Puerto Rico. So yeah.
I love Puerto Rico so much.
Yeah, I've been there. It's
if
really
we
nice
draw
place.
out like our route, it does not make sense. We're like just going up and down. And I do think another thing that kind of helped us decide where to go is living in Seattle. We don't see the sun that often. So part of it was like just chasing the sun. So like we started in Italy and then we like went west to Portugal and then we went back east for the Christmas market. So
yeah, we had sun for like the whole trip, which is amazing. Yeah, I think that was great. And honestly, even though our route wasn't direct, I think I just kept having this mindset of like, this is such an amazing opportunity. Like, let's just go where we want when we want. And it's not always going to be like the most financially responsible, but it's the thing that like we're excited about and that works with what we're trying to do.
Well, especially when you're hitting like Carnival, I would think that prices are going to be a little higher there for hotels or Airbnbs. And if you're hitting the Christmas markets, like those are very popular. Let's start though. So you start in Italy. I mean, crappy place, nothing to see in Italy, right? It's rotten. Like, tell us about Italy. What did you see? What did you love when you went there?
Yeah. So I'm a huge foodie. I love trying new food. I love going to cooking classes and just learning about different cultures through food. So we did 2 cooking classes there. We did one in Florence. It was such an amazing experience that we found through Airbnb. We were able to go to a farm owned by a couple and they like grow all of everything, and we made handmade pasta. So that was a really fun experience.
Yeah, they grew like all their own tomatoes and olives, and they had their friends make wine for them with their own wine label. It was like a whole 8-hour day. Yeah, that was amazing. We had a pesto making class in Cinque Terre.
Is this the little, is this farm, by the way, called Little Paggio, like Little Hill Farm?
It might be.
And the woman has like her own cookbook?
Oh, no. It's a queer couple.
Yeah, Luca and Lorenzo. Yeah. They're like rated fairly highly on Airbnb experiences.
Because we had a similar experience where we learned how to make pasta. I had so much fun making pasta, and they had their own wine label, and it was just getting really creepy familiar. I'm like, if we went to the same place.
Well, now I feel like we have to go to another place.
We have to go
back.
know.
We got to switch now. Try the other one. Absolutely. We're headed to Italy, I think, Crystal, next year. Cheryl and I are on our way. Yeah.
You have a daughter named Crystal.
So cooking classes through Airbnb, both great. But the first one in Florence, did you begin your tour in Florence? Is that where you started?
We started in Venice.
No, yeah. So we started our whole trip in Venice, and we were there for about 10 days. And I loved Venice. I thought it was so cute. The downside is there's so many tourists and it's only getting more and more and more. And but it's just adorable. Like, I know why there's so many tourists, because it's a really cute place. And yeah, but it was really nice, like being in Venice for 10 full days. We did not need 10 full days for Venice, but
No.
that was where the slow travel kicked in, and it was just really nice. And there were days where, while we were really tired from the jet lag, we didn't feel like we have to rush out the door and do something and make the most of this time. Like, we knew we would get to everything we wanted to do in those.
Well, you don't worry about the crowd so much when you've got 10 days. I mean, that's the cool thing, is that you're like, okay, it's crowded. We'll just, come back another time or whatever it is. Did you go to the outer island, like Murano, Burano, the islands around Venice as well?
Yeah, we did. Those were great.
Were they great? It's worth it to go.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
How do you get to those?
It's a small day trip. It's not very difficult. We hit 2 of the islands in one day, and it's nice to walk around and really easy to get from like A to B.
Yeah. They have like ferries and boats like all day.
Yeah.
Nice.
And my understanding is they're not expensive either. Like the ferries.
No. I mean, like, because Venice is on a canal, they don't have any cars. So their like boat system is their bus system. So it has to be affordable for everyone.
Yeah. It was really cool to learn about too, like how Venice functions, and like they even have like their Amazon delivers by boat. Their Amazon deliveries and their like mail deliveries.
I saw those when I was there, Kate. Did you see an Amazon boat when you were there?
We didn't. We saw like the garbage truck boats, and
it's so weird. It is so weird. What about in Venice? Where do you stay? Because housing near the central part of Venice, super expensive. I remember we were on a tour, and it was a first class tour, so we were staying right by St. Mark's Square. But once this tour was over, we extended. We had to stay way out by the airport because hotels were so expensive when we were in Venice.
Yeah, we did the first like probably 6-ish days, like further out. So we would bus in.
I took the bus when I went
20, 30 minutes or something. And then, we did 4 days where like, we want to stay right there. Like, we want to see the gondolas going past, when we're having breakfast. And, but it was really expensive. We're doing 10 days of that would have been a lot. And our kind of goal for the trip was to spend about $100 a day on lodging and $100 a day on everything else, like transportation and food and museums or activities. And we didn't have to spend $100 a day, but that was kind of like ideally our cap. And it was definitely interesting starting in Italy because we probably went over.
I would say you were testing that cap immediately in Italy.
We were, but then we got to Guatemala and we were barely spending anything a day. So it was a little interesting. Like, there were just times every few weeks when one of us would be like, are we spending too much? And we kind of have to check in and make sure. And we're like, no, I think we're fine. And especially when we looked ahead at like Argentina and, other places, we're like, no, it'll all balance out. But yeah, Italy and Venice was like, we came in hot, definitely.
I would also say if you go to Venice, I highly suggest staying at least one night in Venice, since so many tourists have to leave the actual island because like you can't actually bus into it after a certain time. So at night it's like really quiet and peaceful. Just walk around the streets and not be surrounded by millions of tourists.
It was so great, Kimberly, when we were on the tour right by St. Mark's Square. I went out at 6 a.m. for a run, and there was one woman in a wedding dress with a photographer and all those doves, and nobody else. It was just me out there running and nobody. And to your point, it was the best time to be there. It was so cool. Let's move to. So then you went to Florence next.
Yes.
Yeah, Florence, and we did a day trip there. From there to. Where would you do a day trip to?
Siena,
Venice?
maybe?
Oh.
Florence to Siena?
No. It'll
Pisa?
come to me. No. It'll come to me. But we were...
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Orvieto?
Verona.
Oh.
Verona.
We did a day trip to Verona. Yeah. And yeah, we were there a week. It was so cute. We climbed up, was that the like cathedral, the dome there. and just, we love exploring like by foot,
Yeah.
and doing like walking tours. There's lots of, especially in Europe, free walking tours. And then you tip at the end, and, locals give the tours. And yeah, so we did that.
Yeah, it's a great way to get like your sense of direction of the city, and then you hear hidden gems from locals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, when we were in Budapest, we had a history professor, and it was a free walking tour, and we ended up tipping her big time because it was amazing. I mean, that walking tour was phenomenal. So so between Florence and Venice, let's say somebody only has the ability to go to one of the two. And I know this is like they're both your babies, but which one did you like better?
Oh, I think we might have different answers.
I think she's going to say Florence, and I'm going to say Venice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For different reasons. That makes
But
sense,
I do
though.
think I think I would go back to Florence over Venice. Like Venice, I'm so glad I did it. I don't know that I would do it again and again, just because it is like there's so many people and it's really busy. But Florence, I feel like I would do again.
Yeah, it's so walkable. It's bigger. There's so many different places to see and like things to do. And it's just so beautiful.
I second the Florence as well. And to your point, Kate, I also loved Venice. I don't think I need to go back though.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent maybe 5 days there, about half of what you spent. And I don't think I need to do it again. And not that it sucked. That makes it sound like it sucked, and it didn't. It was great. So, so now you've done a cooking class in Florence. You've been to all the islands around Venice. You've stayed right in town in Venice. Where'd you go from Florence?
We went next to Cinque Terre, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we stayed in La Spezia, outside of the towns, the 5 towns there in Cinque Terre.
Wait just a second, Kate. Crystal, are you familiar with Cinque Terre?
No.
Can you describe to everybody that doesn't know what Cinque Terre is all about? Because this is a neat part of Italy, Crystal.
It translates to 5 lands or towns. So they are 5 different towns on the coast that are connected by a trail system. And they're all about like 1 mile to 2 miles in between each one.
And so you can walk. So we walked from town to town, and they're all just kind of pretty small towns, and they're like really built into the mountains and right on the waterfront. Wow. And it's just stunning. And the hikes are beautiful. Yeah, Cinque Terre was gorgeous.
And I think the buildings are also known for being like so colorful.
That is super cool. So tell us about Cinque Terre.
Yeah, we definitely did all the like hikes between them. But again, because we were doing the slow travel, we didn't feel like we have to do all of it in 1 day or 2 days. So it was nice. We kind of say, which places do we want to go on which days? And then we were able to go back to the ones that we liked the most, and spend a little bit more time there. They have also train systems between them, and it's really cheap for a full day pass, unlimited train rides, or if you are going to be there a couple days, you can buy a pass. I think it's probably 10, 20 euros. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really affordable.
That's
and they
fabulous.
Run constantly. Yeah.
I've always worried about Cinque Terre. I've never been there, but I've always worried that because those towns are so small and it's so well known that meals will be expensive, lodging's expensive. Tell me about that.
Yeah, a lot of people recommend staying in La Spezia. So that is like the main city away from the 5 towns. And I think maybe a 15-minute train ride tops.
Yeah. So that was where we stayed. It's the same train too. So we could get on that train and take it to the first town or the last town, anywhere we wanted. But that was nice because then we could eat breakfast in La Spezia, which is a much smaller town. And they do get their tourists too, because it's people who are not staying in the other 5. Yeah. But those are definitely the most touristy, the most expensive food. So sometimes we'd like eat lunch there. But we'd often eat like breakfast and dinner back in La Spezia. Yeah.
The thing that I loved about Italy was that, if you go to an American restaurant, and I don't know if the two of you drink wine, but in an American restaurant, if you have the house wine, you're drinking garbage. Man, these little restaurants in Italy, if you get the house wine, oh, fantastic.
Yeah. We also realize in Europe it's a lot cheaper to get alcohol than it is to get water. So
I will
Oh,
say that the
So who needs water,
downside,
Kimberly? Who needs water?
that's
you're hydrating with
funny.
like a spritz, basically.
I, the downside of slow travel, you really have to check yourself because usually you go on vacation for 2 weeks or something and it's like, I'm going to have a drink and I'm going to have ice cream every single day on vacation.
Oh,
But if you're traveling for 7 months, you can't do that every
No.
single day. But we definitely did in Italy, I think because it was our first country and, an Aperol Spritz would be so cheap and then a
Yeah.
glass of wine would be so cheap. So we kind of got
and the
sucked in.
bread. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Also, girl math, I can have 3 alcoholic beverages for the same price as like a glass of water. So
Duh.
That's so
Yeah.
nuts.
That's beautiful. For me, then, I would be getting all that great pasta. I would be hauling my
Yeah.
fat ass on the train.
It was the
just-
bread for me. Yeah, when I went, I had bread every day. But I only did Venice and Milan, but like similar. I wouldn't go back to Venice, but I would definitely go back to Milan.
But you liked Venice too.
Yeah, it
But
was
you did
nice,
like
but
Venice.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
So, and I think Venice is a great place to start, by the way. So
visit.
Venice,
Yep.
so I'm kind of doing the math. You've got Venice. Now we've come down halfway across the peninsula to Florence, then across to Cinque Terre. So take us to the next spot on the adventure.
The next was Rome.
Rome, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, Rome. And we
Roma.
were there about 5 days at the most, 4.5, 5 days.
Yeah.
And we did a day trip to Pompeii, which is great, but it poured the whole time. We loved
Oh,
Pompeii.
no.
It was so fun anyways. Like we were just drenched. I mean, people were selling ponchos. It didn't even matter. Like you were just completely soaked, but it was such a cool place. And we did like a tour there. And so we got to learn a lot about it, which I think was helpful because otherwise we would have not known what we were looking at necessarily. But we really enjoyed Pompeii. Rome, on the other hand,
Oh,
Probably our least favorite city in Italy.
Was it really? How come?
I think that it was not as walkable as the other cities. I think it's really congested for one.
I think we just actually, it's the one place we stayed too long. I think like our first maybe 48 hours in Rome, we really enjoyed. And then after that, for some reason, we were like, okay, we can move on. I'm also not a huge history buff. And I feel like if I was, I probably would have really loved it. But I mean, it was cool to like walk around, turn a corner and just see something gorgeous that you've seen like in movies. And it was just right there. But I don't know. Yeah. For some reason, it just like it wasn't our favorite. Yeah.
Was there a particular low light you didn't like? For us in Rome, it was when it rained, the streets all flooded. And because we're walking from point A to point B and the cars are so close to you, as you know, those sidewalks, like you were talking about, really small. I mean, we were just drenched when it rained between the huge standing water and the cars coming by splashing you.
Yeah, I think we tried taking the bus once and we realized that if we had walked, it would have been a million times faster.
Oh,
I think it was
no.
like a mile took like 30 minutes to get through. And at that point, we're like, we will never use a transportation system.
Yeah.
here.
I would also say it's funny because while Rome wasn't necessarily our favorite, I do think one of the highlights of our trip was we did like a Vespa tour of the city. So there was somebody who drove the Vespa and I was on the back and Kimberly was in the sidecar and they'd pull over, at the Coliseum and then, talk to you about it and you take pictures and walk around and then they take you to the next spot. And that was just a lot of fun. So I feel like it's just funny that it was like one of the highlights and it was in a city that we were like, it's okay. But I think we hit all the best things like in that tour.
Yeah.
That's cool. But one of my highlights of Southeast Asia in Vietnam was the Vespa tour, Kate. Of course, riding around Saigon on a Vespa where you feel like you're going to die any second. There's a little thrill there,
I don't like
8
that.
lines of traffic and tons of Vespas and holy cow. But that is neat. This is the only time I've heard of somebody else taking a Vespa tour. And I thought mine was a super highlight. So maybe there's something there too.
About it.
We loved it. I probably wasn't as scary as the one that you took.
Sure.
People drove
I think
pretty
Rome would be a
safely.
little more civilized, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just a
But
little.
yeah, and at that point, I guess then we'd been traveling for, I think we were in Italy for 28 days total. And we just, the amount of times we looked at each other and we're like, we've just started this trip, but we already have done so much. It was
I
just like,
know.
yeah, every single day we were just amazed that uh, we were doing it. That I think it took months for that to settle in. Like we were actually doing this trip.
Huh.
Well, let's take a quick pause there because I'm wondering about like, how are you feeling at this point? Because maybe, I mean, you've done all this touring. Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling worn down? Or because you're slow traveling, you're taking time off?
I would say, like, because we were slow traveling, yeah, we were taking time off. So there was like in Rome, we'd done a bunch of the things and we maybe had a day or so left. And Kimberly's like, well, let's watch. You've never seen the Lizzie McGuire movie. It takes place in Rome. We have to
Oh,
watch it.
that's
So we just
cool.
laid in bed and watched it. And we ended up kind of doing that in almost every country we were in.
That's super.
Find like a movie
Ah.
that was like set in that country.
Kimberly had never seen The Sound of Music, so we watched that in Austria. And, there was just, we didn't, again, feel that sense of urgency. So I do
Yeah.
feel like, I don't know. I don't remember being like that tired.
No.
Well, this is going to be an 18-part
Yeah.
interview
Show.
if I don't speed this up. But
Yeah.
we want to take a break here at the halfway point because we have this piece that's from skyscanner.ca, and it is all about slow travel. And we thought we'd ask you a few questions that come from this list that they made, and then and ask what you think about it. Number one was to kind of get in the mood to do exactly what you just said. So I'm glad you brought that up, which is watch movies, read books about the places that you go to like ahead of time, kind of get in the spirit of the place. How much you did that when you were in different places, but did you read about the places ahead of time? Did you read any fiction around the places or anything like that?
Well, so, like reading, like to get to know the places. I don't know. Not
Yeah.
necessarily. We researched in advance, like what kinds of things might we want to do, and we kind of put stuff in a Google Doc of, oh, this looks cool. We should maybe visit there, and this looks neat. But I think we were going so many places that we couldn't necessarily research all of them
Yeah.
beforehand. But Kimberly really loves to like read more about the place that we're in while we're there. So we would see something or hear about something on a tour, and then we'd go back and she would read everything about it and then tell me everything at dinner.
I have like 5 tabs open, like during a tour. I'd like just like immediately open a new tab and be like, I need to like research this really quick.
Oh, cool.
All right, here's another one you kind of didn't do. It says visit during the slow season, visit an area. So that's the opposite of the carnival and the Christmas market.
I mean, yes and no. There's definitely pros, I think, to that. It was just we wanted to do some of these big like celebrations and Carnival. It's
Yeah.
like, we
Big
feel like
one.
that was such an amazing experience, and there's one time of year to do it, and it's
Yeah.
not the
True.
off season for sure. But it was, to Joe's point earlier, it was more expensive. We thought we'd stay in Brazil the whole month of February, and we cut that down to 2 weeks because I think we
Okay.
spent like $2,000
In one city for like a 5-night stay.
or 7 night stay. It was,
Oh,
we
Wow.
spent a lot, and that was the peak time to be there. So,
right.
Yeah.
but if we staying the whole month was not realistic. So I guess there is that downside. So if you're looking to like really soak it up, and I think we would go back to Brazil so we could actually stay longer in an off season.
Yeah.
The another one that they have here is, and I would imagine slow traveling, you could do some of this. Take your time to explore historical landmarks or wander through different neighborhoods. Like just go where the people are and away from some of the iconic touristy places. I got to believe you did some of that.
Absolutely. I mean, it is so fun to just walk around in a neighborhood for an hour and then finding a random hole in a wall and being like, wow, like this place doesn't even have a name, and then wanting to go back and not being able to find it. So but it's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did so many of the big touristy things also, but I do think because we had that extra time, we were able to just like mosey and yeah, we didn't have an agenda. So I feel like it was when you end up finding some really cool places and meeting interesting people.
Yeah, or like finding like museums that like end up being some of our favorite museums that like are just not on any list. Like in Lisbon, we went to this earthquake museum. And
Wow.
it was just we happened upon it, but I don't think it was like a recommended museum.
There were two in Lisbon that we were walking past and we were like, one that was about their whole dictatorship, and we went and it was one of the coolest museums, and we just happened to be walking by and we're like, oh, let's check it out. Yeah.
That's really cool. I love the serendipity, you know, just the let's just do this now. I love that. We are going to talk to Kate and Kimberly more. We're going to do the rest of Europe and all of Latin America in the next 25 minutes. So hang on tight. We'll be right back.
Well, I had a quick question I wanted to jump in. So, did you do any working while you were there? Or you were all just, we saved up enough money and it's going to last for our whole trip?
No, I worked. So the hope was that one of us would be able to work
Okay.
remotely to just kind of fund it.
Nice.
So I was able to work pretty much part-time remotely. And then I had started a private practice as well on the side. So I was also doing some of that. So I was probably working about 25-ish hours a week.
Okay.
And that was making enough to like fund the trip. We did pay for some of it up front. We paid for probably the first 2 months of like our hostels or Airbnbs before we even left. But then everything else, it was just the goal was to make enough that we could spend it all,
Keep going.
and that would be it. And we did. I think we tapped a little bit into our savings at the beginning because we were in Italy and it was so expensive. But then by the time we were in Latin America, we were replenishing it. But even working remotely, it mostly worked out. It actually worked out great in Europe because I'm on the West Coast, and with the time difference, I'd work
Oh.
like around like, from 4 p.m. to midnight or something like that within that time frame. And so we had all day to do things. The hardest place for me to work from abroad was actually like Brazil and Argentina, because the workday would start around like 1 p.m. and then go till 7 or 8. So
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot you can do before, and then there's also not a lot you can do after. But so that was the trickiest spot for me to work.
Yeah, and unfortunately I couldn't work because I my job requires, it's just I'm hybrid, so I would have to go into the office every so often. But it worked out that I was kind of like the admin person while we traveled. So I did a lot of the research. I'd find a lot of the places we'd go eat or a lot of the activities we'd do. And then, like Kate mentioned earlier, I was in charge of keeping in touch and finding people to sublet our apartment.
And I will say, Kimberly, they loved her at her job, and she told them like, Kate and I really want to go on this huge trip, and is it possible for me to go hybrid? And they looked into it, and they came back and said no.
A remote, not hybrid.
A remote, yeah. And they
Mhm.
said, and they said, we'd love to have you back though. And so her last day at that job was like the day before we left, and then she started back at the exact same job
4 days after we came back.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so that worked out great, because then we weren't stressed about like, would she get a job when we come back or anything. We just, it was just as long as one of us could work, that would be
sure, because that stops a lot of people from doing this, and having the comfort and knowing the job's there is so great. What's cool about that too, from your employer's point of view, I think a lot of employers don't realize that the cost of training a new person is so high. Right. Mm-hmm. So keeping that person happy and keeping them there when they want to come back, like
beautiful.
Kimberly, if you were with Stacking Benjamins, I'd say, oh, hell yeah, please God, come back. Please.
Right, let me know when you're hiring.
Please. Let's touch briefly on the Christmas markets, because we're taking my mom to the Christmas markets this year. So highlights, lowlights, good, bad, ugly of Christmas markets.
Lowlights. There are so many all over both countries. You can't get to all of them. I mean, they're also in other countries. Like there's some in France and like
Belgium.
Yeah. Like there are
thousands. The lowlights is you can't get it all.
Yeah.
But the highlight is like, even just in Austria alone, because we hit a couple in Vienna and one, or they were kind of spread out in Graz. So we went to the ones in Graz and then Salzburg. They were all so distinct from each other. Like the one in Vienna was really different than the one in Graz and really different from the one in Salzburg. So I think it was just really cute and neat to see how different they all were. Yeah, we loved it. It was so like
Aw.
magical.
How'd you like Austria?
The Christmas markets or just the country in general?
Just the country in general.
We want to go back. I do think,
Oh.
unfortunately, we're not able to enjoy Vienna as much as we wanted to because Kate did end up getting sick. So we were kind of stuck in
Just hanging out
and like taking care of her.
But we still went to the Christmas markets there.
Yes.
I was sick.
She found a way.
But we did say we would go back because we were really there for the Christmas markets, but it was beautiful country. But we were like, oh, we should go in the summer because I think it would be completely different.
True.
Yeah.
Well, thank God you made it to the Christmas market because I heard that mulled wine is medicinal.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. I did. I believe I had it and I was sick. We have a photo of me. I look really sick and I'm like there with my mulled wine. I'm so happy, but I'm so congested. Yeah.
And then once you get tired of that, you can have spiked hot chocolate because that's also another thing they do. So
Oh my
there are
God.
options.
I can't
I
wait.
know everything you bought.
can't wait.
But we gotta talk about other stuff. I know.
Yes.
I love the markets. I want to see everything you saw and bought, but another time.
We got some cute stuff. The hard part when you're traveling for so long is you can't buy that much. Fortunately, my parents met up with us for the Christmas markets in Austria, so we were able to send Kimberly got a really cute ornament and we got this cool Christmas tree. So we were able to send that back.
Oh, cool.
To them. And so we have that. But yeah, there were times where there were things we really liked and we're like, wow.
Next time we'll just have to come back and get it.
We have to come back specifically to buy this. Yeah.
I've also found sometimes just the value of the picture, like that I get the rush from taking a picture of it and just remembering it that way. But there's a few things that I've regretted where I'm like, I should have bought that. That would have been so great.
Because some stuff you will, you'll never see it again. All right.
Right. Well, at the Christmas markets, so much of it is individual. I mean,
once in a lifetime
it's
stuff.
not like the mollification of America, these are some pretty unique things that you see. To Portugal. Let's talk about Portugal. Did you just go to Lisbon?
Did Lisbon and Porto.
And we did southern Portugal also.
Yes, we did Albufeira.
Awesome.
We love Lisbon. I know there's like a big competition. Are people Lisbon people or Porto people? We're Lisbon people. We love the street art. I love how hilly it is. I love that you're right on the water there. The weather's gorgeous. The people are really friendly in Portugal. Just everyone was so nice. So we really love Lisbon.
It's also a really great country to start in if you are not multilingual. I think 90+% of the population speaks English.
Okay.
Wow.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Did you have trouble with communicating in any of the countries you went to in Europe?
I think Italy was the most.
Maybe, but even there, I don't think it was even that bad there. Yeah, we also both speak Spanish fluently. So I think that does help. We could read the Italian or we could read the Portuguese. We couldn't speak it, but so I do think that helped. But a lot of Europeans speak English pretty well. So yeah.
Awesome. So now you're on your way to Central and South America. Let's talk about where you went there. Did you begin in Guatemala then?
We did. So we had 2 weeks of winter in Austria where it snowed. And then we were like, we're over this. We got to go to Guatemala where it's 80, 90 degrees and we can just hang out in the pool every day.
It's gotta be surreal going from snow to a swimming pool.
Yeah.
It was a funny flight. We flew from Salzburg to Guatemala City. And I'm like, I don't think this is a really common flight that people had a layover in the US, but it just was funny. I'm like, I don't think this happens a lot.
Right.
Yeah. So we started kind of doing this loop that a lot of people do. And we went to Rio Dulce and Cinque. You can talk more about it. This is your jam.
Yeah, Rio Dulce is really cool. All of the hotels are on the river. So we had to take a boat to our hotel. It was like a little cabana. It was like in the jungle. You could hear the howler monkeys. You could see like a bunch of different like animals that you'd never see in the US. And then from there we went to Saint-Champe, which is deep in the jungle, where they have one of the most beautiful like natural like waterfalls that you can like just swim in, and they have like bat caves that you can tour. That was really cool. And then from there we went to Antigua and Atitlan.
Yeah, and those two are like a trek to get to. So, they're talking like 8, 10, 11-hour bus rides. And it's not even that far. Like when you look at it on a map or you look at the actual mileage, it's not that far, but then you're going all over and the roads aren't great. So, people often kind of do this little loop through those. And then after we did that, we stayed in Antigua for a while, which is adorable. And there's a huge like expat community there. And it almost feels a little bit not like the rest of Guatemala. There's just, there'll be actually somebody that lives 10 minutes from us here, or did live 10 minutes from us here. She moved down there, loved it, and opened her own salon down there. And
cute.
So I went to go get my haircut, and we started talking, and she like is from right here in Seattle, originally. And then we went to like a really good crepe place, but it was from some people from France that, decided to go there and just open their little crepe restaurant. So it's like kind of a melting pot in Antigua.
Yeah.
Are you coffee drinkers?
I am.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That Guatemalan coffee.
Yeah. And it's also their typical like daily coffee is also made so like uniquely. Like they have this giant pot that just like, it's kind of like a giant cast iron that like never gets like fully washed. So then the coffee every day will taste a little bit different because you'll have spices from like the day before.
Wow.
So,
that's cool. Let's go right now. I want to go right now. Well, and plus the food, being a foodie, Kimberly, where did you like the food the best? Or do you just like the fact that it's different everywhere you go?
I think I love the fact that it's different everywhere. I mean, like, love pasta, but I don't want to have that 365 days,
I don't know. Challenge me.
It's great to go from like pasta to unique, like, like plantains and beans and like something that's so different, in Guatemala. And then going to Argentina where you have steak, like they're known for their meat there.
Yeah, the food everywhere. I mean, like in Guatemala, I just loved how there's like the street food. Like I love like fresh fruit and especially like tropical fruit. And I love that we just be like walking around and there's another person and, you pay them probably like 30 cents for,
fresh mangoes with like lemon and salt on top.
Yeah. And it's just like right there. Yeah, the street food was great.
Now, Cheryl and my kids went there. Cheryl works in the medical field. So they went out to some remote villages, and it was it was a medical trip, and they help people by setting up and working in these clinics. And they absolutely loved every minute of the time they were in Guatemala. But the one thing that people worry about, I know, is getting sick, and not just in Guatemala, in Europe, in South America. Like when you're eating street food, do you ever worry about, I'm putting this in my mouth, am I going to regret this an hour from now?
I'm a firm believer of high risk, high reward. So
I will say, actually, in Guatemala, I got sick from the food. And the only time I got sick was actually at a sit-down place in a mall. We had like we're checking into the next Airbnb, but we got a few hours till we can check in. So let's just go sit in the mall. We can put our bags down and eat something there. I got something and then I felt horrible for like 24 hours. So it ironically was not the street food.
That's cool. Yeah. Go for the street food. I like the high risk, high reward. That's great.
Yeah. It's usually pretty well cooked, the street food though, too. They char that stuff sometimes, but it is good.
Where do we go next, ladies?
We went to Buenos Aires in Argentina. Yeah. And again, the weather, amazing.
I would think though, again, some culture that like completely different. I would think that Guatemala, like you get off the plane and this is a completely different culture.
Well, the accent alone is really different. And we do both speak Spanish fluently, but Guatemala is so much easier to understand people. And then Argentina, their accent is really different. That was different. Also, the exchange rates were so interesting going from country to country. And Argentina was actually the most affordable because they have a lot of strange things with their inflation there. And they have like 3 different exchange rates. They have their regular one and their black market one, and then their credit card one. And so there are so many exchange rates to try to manage. But it'd be strange to be in Europe and get something for €3 and say that's about $3-ish, maybe 4, and then go to Argentina and dinner would be 27,000 Argentinian pesos, and that was only like $11 or something. But it was kind of like a constant shock of like, how much are we paying for things? Because it was changing all the time.
Yeah.
When we were in Vietnam, we were at a hotel for 3 nights downtown, and our bill at the end was like $1 million, whatever the dong. And I was like, $1 million? I don't think I can afford $1 million. And it was something like $86 a night,
Yeah.
Yeah. But tell us about the highlights of your time in Argentina.
I would say the cemetery there, the Recoleta. Is that what it's called? Yeah, it's one of the biggest cemeteries ever, and a lot of famous people are buried there.
And it's gorgeous. Everyone there has like huge like monuments, and we did a tour. I think it was through Airbnb. And there's many tours of the cemetery because like you'll go and they'll give you a map because there's like walking streets everywhere. And it's just stunning. Like I've never been to a cemetery like that where there's so much in what they put in each of these like monuments and
they're like
statues,
mausoleums.
Yeah.
And that's because back about 100 years ago, Argentina was one of like the richest countries in the world. So people had such an excess of money that they're like, you know what? Like when I die, I have $10 million. I don't know what to do with it. I have to get architects from Europe to build like a mausoleum to show how rich I am.
A monument to myself.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, the most fun we had was in Argentina was at the cemetery. Yeah.
They were dying to go, Crystal. They were dying to go. Couldn't help it. Was that free as well? Like the ones that you took in Italy? Was that a free tour where you just tip at the end, or did they charge?
That one we did pay through, and because it was an Airbnb experience. Okay. And I think Kimberly found that one because that person got such great reviews and stars. And so we were like, all right. And he was amazing. He just had like such a wealth of knowledge and had been doing these tours for like years and years and years.
But there definitely were free tours of the cemetery as well.
Yeah.
Did you do, Kimberly, any cooking when you were in South America? Any of the cooking classes there too?
Yeah, we did. We did a chocolate making class in.
Oh my God! Shut up.
That was really fun. And then we made empanadas in Argentina.
I would. Oh man, I would love that.
That was really fun because the instructor like had us make empanadas with like frozen shells, and then also made us make them with like just made from scratch. Like we made the pastry from scratch so that we could taste the difference, and that was like really fun to do.
I bet it's night and day difference, isn't it?
It is.
Of course.
It really was. It really was. I mean, like the frozen ones were so good as well, but the fresh one, amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we ate a lot of empanadas in Argentina. They're just everywhere. Something we don't do in the U.S., we never do Uber Eats or DoorDash or anything like that.
Me neither.
We eat like we eat out twice a month.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, like 1 to 2 times a month.
We don't go out that often, but while we were traveling, we were eating out all the time. But in some of these countries, like the delivery would be $1 to deliver us dinner. And so I think that too, being part of the slow travel was we didn't feel like we had to go out every single night. Like sometimes we were like, you know what, we know this good empanada place. Let's just pay $1. We're exhausted. we get it here. We can just eat at home and watch Survivor.
Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me about meeting locals in these different places you went. Did you have any interesting discussions with people that lived in these different cities that you went to?
I think for me, the most memorable person was another Airbnb experience, the mate lady in Montevideo.
Yeah.
Her Airbnb experience was just, let's sit on a park bench for about an hour and I will bring all the necessary tools to make mate. And I'll make
Oh.
it for you, and then we'll just chit chat about whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and
Just like,
she's been there her whole life, and she'll just chat with you. You know, you can talk about Uruguay and Montevideo, or you could talk about anything else. But
Huh.
I think I'm from the Midwest, and the Midwesterners are just kind of like friendly people. And Kimberly is
Yep.
not from the Midwest, but also a friendly person. I feel like we end up having interesting conversations with people because we also just like to ask people questions to get to know them. And people like to talk about, like, most people are proud of where they're from and like to talk about where they're from, especially if you're interested. So um, we would just always meet people. And then if it wasn't those people, we'd meet other people in our tour groups that were from different countries visiting, and they'd say, oh yeah, we're going here. And just the conversation is really unique. And I think that was like something that I appreciated, that while we were traveling, work didn't feel like such a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But here in the States, it's kind of like, well, we work, we have
Yeah.
our jobs, and we talk about our jobs, and we're worried about our jobs or exhausted because of our jobs.
Huh.
Well, when we traveled and we meet people, nobody ever talked about their jobs. People talked about,
Huh.
where they were from and where you were from and where, like, give me recommendations and I'll share this with you. And do we
Yeah.
want to go out for a drink together? Because you're really cool.
Yeah.
So I just really liked that I was working and that was something I was doing, but I just had so much else going on. It wasn't like this big, big fixture in my life.
That's fantastic. Just amazing. I think we're going to end with Brazil then. Let's talk about going to Carnival.
Woohoo.
Going out with a bang.
yeah. So we were in Rio and Salvador, and I did a lot of research about what Carnival looks like in different cities, and ultimately we decided to spend like the main part of Carnival in Salvador because it's called the People's Carnival, where there's a lot of like street parades and just a lot of different activities, versus Rio, which is the competitions where you see all the people
Oh.
dressed up and doing like the giant
yeah.
floats.
Yeah. So we did do a week like in Rio, but it was the kind of pre-Carnival. Pre-Carnival means that people are partying pretty much 23 hours a day, not 24. So it was so exhausting. When it was all finally over and it was like our last night, we were in Sao Paulo before our flight out. I remember being like, it's actually quiet. Like, we have not heard quiet outside our window in 2 weeks. It was, yeah.
So the people in Rio are crazy. They will party for 23 hours and then like work out and then party again. You're just like, when are you actually sleeping?
Then they go to the beach and they play beach volleyball and they go to the
Yeah.
gym
Oh
and
my
they like get ready.
goodness.
Yeah, it was just such energy while we were there.
And I think like we were able to go out once. We made it to like 5 a.m. and then we were like, we have to sleep the entire day, like the next day.
Yeah. I will say, like, we're not usually the travelers who do like let's do a full day on like a tour bus. We kind of are like, well, let's get there on our own or we'll
Yeah.
walk there. But
Yeah.
a lot of people, just people who had been to Brazil and people who hadn't, were telling us beforehand, like, it's scary, it's dangerous. And so we just didn't know what to expect. And so
That was my next question. Yeah.
yeah, we were like a little bit anxious going into it because of what people were saying. And so we did book like an all day thing, an all day tour where you hit like the Cristo, and you hit a lot of like different tourist like hotspots around
Like
the
football
city.
the Brazilian football stadium, and like this like very well known
Oh.
church, and like the Brazilian steps that you hear about in Rio.
Yeah, so it kind of picked everybody up exactly at your like hostel.
Yeah.
You got in the van and then they take you from place to place. And I do think that felt nice. I feel like it would have been difficult to navigate during such a busy time of year, and not speaking Portuguese. But honestly, we both felt safer than it was safer than we had thought it would be. Definitely. I think like anywhere, you want to be careful and
Right.
cautious, but I think too, going around with tour guides would say like, this area is really safe, or like, this area is not so safe. And so then you start to get a little bit, I don't know, calmer, and you have a better sense of like where you're at. But Salvador felt very safe, which is definitely like a smaller city. And the people there were so friendly. There's a lot less tourists there for Carnival. And so, yeah, people are just there to have a good time. I think it's like a happy time to be there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just didn't feel, I don't know, as scary as we thought it would.
Did you have a favorite Brazilian city?
We hit those two, Rio and
Sao Paulo?
Salvador. Yeah. Sao Paulo, we were only there for like 2 nights before our
Gotcha.
flight out.
Okay.
Yeah, so we didn't really get to do a lot, but I would say we would totally go back to probably both of them.
To both of them.
To
yeah.
both of them.
I mean, like, they both are so different and are known for different things.
Yeah, and Salvador, the food was really interesting and like unique. Lots of like soups with like seafood and things like that. So they're very, very different. I would recommend them both for sure.
Okay.
Now, what about the flights? Did you use points to pay for any of this? Are you points people, or did you just find the cheapest flight you could take? Tell me about flying back, because you must have had quite a few. I'm just imagining all the flying that you did.
Yes, I will admit I'm a personal finance nerd, and points are like, they're hard for me. I'm not like the best at maximizing them. Some people are so good at it. But I did have enough savvy that before we got engaged, I upgraded my credit card so I could buy the ring and get the bonus points, that
Nice.
bonus 80,000
Yeah.
miles or whatever.
Yep.
So, and then for a lot of our wedding, we put things on credit cards that we just paid off right away. So we had a lot of points by the time we took the trip. I think almost all of our trips, like our big international flights, were covered by points. And because we were traveling, we were putting and not paying rent like here with a check, we were putting everything on our cards. So we were paying for every Airbnb or hostel on our card. So we just kept spending our points and getting more and more points.
Nice.
And so the only flights we really paid to were from like Rome to Lisbon, through the European Airlines, or from Lisbon to Berlin, or just the shorter flights.
Very short, very affordable flights.
Yeah.
And I mean, Europe is so small that it is easy to go between countries without actually flying. Like we did fly, but we took a train from Germany to Austria. And then from Argentina to Uruguay, we took a ferry.
Yeah.
The train system in Europe is so amazing. Every time I've gone, except one time, Crystal, we were stuck on the south of France, and there was a strike, and we had to get back to Paris.
Ouch.
And there was about 1 out of every 4 trains were running. And so we called up the Eurail, and they said the best thing to do is just get to the station as quickly as you can. Go when the first train's supposed to come. I don't know if it's coming or not, but just hang out at the station till a train comes, and whether it's your train or not, get on. And so we literally, and every train was it was miserable. It was just miserable. But the rest of the time it was fantastic. Just don't be in France during a train strike.
But you have to have those miserable moments, because like now you're talking about it.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's
I got
fine.
I got to be felt up by some strangers.
You're welcome.
That's right. All this, right. Well, Kate and Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thanks for having us. This was
Thank
fun.
you.
We were like just in preparation for this, like reminiscing and looking at photos, and it's just like, it's kind of like the trip that just keeps going and going. I know we'll talk about it for years and years to come. So
I totally believe it. Is there anything we didn't ask you about that was maybe a big thing on the trip, or some maybe even little thing on the trip that you remember that we didn't cover?
Oh, you mentioned cooking classes, but we also did dancing classes.
Yeah.
In Vienna, the Viennese waltz?
We did not do that. We did tango.
No.
That
was
samba
funny.
in Brazil and bachata in Puerto Rico. We did not talk about Puerto Rico, but that was the last place we went to.
And we didn't talk about Uruguay. I would leave out Puerto Rico, but Uruguay, Montevideo, we did not. We were only there a week because we're like, oh, it's a small little city and whatever. We loved it. It was
Okay.
such a cool country with a really interesting history of like how it came to be a very progressive country. So we were just really surprised by it. And yeah, we loved it.
Oh.
Kate, you'll love this. Underneath the table behind me there, that board game right there underneath the table, that's a board game I just got that's about power in Uruguay.
Oh,
What is we need to have another podcast to just talk about board games.
I know it's about Pampero
bottom
and
line.
about the plains, and apparently the wind goes across the plains so much, and Uruguay decided to be really pioneers in wind power. And so you run power through Uruguay, setting up wind power around the country. I haven't learned how to play it yet. It's literally just got here. So
let us know if it's good.
So yeah, let's go. Just come to
Wow.
Texarkana. Let's do
There
it.
you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
If
we'll have
that's a real
empanadas. I want
place.
empanadas now. Let's have
Me
empanadas
too.
like right
Oh.
now.
I want to
Yes.
go dancing. I was like, I want to find salsa dancing.
Well, there's our party, Crystal. We got it.
That's interesting.
All right, that's going to do it for today. Here's your question, adventurers. Have you ever slow traveled? In about a month, we're going to open it up to you. So, Crystal, how do people tell
Yes.
their slow travel stories?
Please, please, please head to stackingadventures.com/mystory. And that way we will hear from you during the show. And we love it. We love it when we have other talkers besides just me and Joe. And Joe, probably Joe twice.
And Crystal. And it's been a lot of you lately. Come on.
I hope.
You'll
Good.
also find our gear of the day at stackingadventures.com/gear of the day. That's all gear that Crystal and I have approved, except the one I did last week, which was the collapsible water bottle that somebody.
Oh, yeah. And I meant to show
told
you
us
guys
about.
my bracelet. See this? Well, if you could see, it's a bracelet. But wait, there's more. It's a flask. Boom.
Because
So-
Crystal needs a drink wherever she goes.
No. But if you two want to share any pictures, please, please, please send us pictures so we can share with the listeners, because your trip sounds so amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, we will. Hopefully, we'll try to do that as fast as possible. But there's a lot of photos. So it's
I can
never
only
easy.
imagine, or have
Yeah.
AI be like, give me 10
Yeah.
that captures the essence. Are you planning another one soon?
We just had a baby
Oh,
2.5
congrats.
months ago, so not immediately, but we are planning his first international trip. Hopefully for
Nice.
like the fall, but that'll
Okay.
probably be like 2 or 3 weeks. You know, start easy. But I do think that doing this trip made us both feel so confident that we could do it again in the future and that we could do it with kids.
With a baby, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's people who do it all the
Oh, yeah.
time. You just got to kind of like find those people, because it does really help to make you, to hear those tips and tricks, and then
Oh, yeah.
make you feel
They're
like it is
priceless.
possible.
Well, thanks to both of you.
Priceless.
And thanks to everybody who
Thanks.
hung out with us today on YouTube. And if you want to join us on YouTube, normally we're here first thing Friday morning, but because we're doing a West Coast, East Coast kind of thing today, we're doing it on Thursday afternoon. So that's going to do it for today. She's Crystal.
And I'm Joe.
And
Joe.
let's get take this show on the road.
Show on the road. Jinx, you owe me a quarter.
I don't know.